AJF. We're on Fox. Russell Wilson, 6-0 against the Eagles.
Way to throw your team in.
Who are battling some chemistry issues on the heels of A.J. Brown saying the team needed to get better at, quote, passing. Here's Jalen Hurts.
It's about the team. Yeah, I don't care how it looks. It's kind of my game, and I think that's something that people have to accept, that, it's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look, but he's going to win.
I like that.
I like it too.
What do you got in this one?
Look, I think, assuming he's out, George Pickens, he hasn't been ruled out yet.
They don't think he's playing.
Yeah, that's huge to me. Because a lot of their passing game is these deep throws to Pickens. And so I'm going with Philly.
Wow.
And this is good for the Eagles. I think the Steelers are going to be rough on Philly's run game. So I think they're going to have to throw the football, and I think Jalen is going to have success throwing it to A.J. Brown. I think at one touchdown to A.J., and I think there's feel-good vibes there because, they have some success through the air. So I got Philly.
As quiet as it's kept, if Saquon gets another 110 scrimmage yards, he gets another $250,000. So
Coach loves these players.
I wonder if AJ will let Saquon get his 110 yards.
God, that's
so he can get his $250,000.
Well, he'll get it.
He's going to get it at some point.
I know, but it'd be nice to get. Big weekend. He'd go out, get a nice dinner. When you look at this, so Mr. Unstoppable, or what is it, Mr. Unlimited?
Unlimited.
I lose track of the nicknames. So he's undefeated against the Eagles. We know that it's been 60 years since Pittsburgh's won there, so you've got that element. And a lot of ways, I really like Philadelphia in this game, except I hate the fact that when everything is going so well, they figured out a way to make it uncomfortable. They figured out a way to create some drama that didn't need to be there, and you saw it last night. Debo tweets about not getting enough touches, and they force him the ball. I'd like to think that Jalen is, I'm not saying Brock isn't confident, but that Jalen has enough resolve to put it in the place that it should go as opposed to trying to force it in. But it's hard to say that it's not going to happen.
And even
based off of precedent.
Right, and even if he does have maybe more confidence or resolve than Purdy because he's how he's paid or his college career, whatever, AJ's a much better player than Debo. Like AJ's request resonates more. That's a first-team All-Pro caliber guy. Debo's having a rough year.
It would have worked out for Debo if he had just made the play.
Right, that's the other thing.
But we're not saying that Debo's not a slouch. It's not like Debo.
No, but last night he just had a really bad game.
So listen, Wilds, I'm an Eagles guy.
Yeah,
everybody knows. This. So I'm an Eagles guy.
For another week.
Right, exactly. Let him lose, and he's on to the Rams.
I'm an Eagles guy. So obviously I've got the Eagles in this game.
Okay.
I found that Jalen Hurts press conference fascinating. And I mentioned it yesterday. I should have had us pull the sound. I don't know if that was confidence or hubris or a combination of the two. But when you go third person and are like, but we win, there is an element of, okay, right now, I don't think it's really an issue because you're winning, but I don't think Jalen Hurts has been a huge part of their winning as of late. And he's now, that press conference makes it seem like he thinks he is
the quarterback.
No, I get that, but it feels like you were saying, one of their reasons they're winning is they're taking the game more out of his hands and putting it in Saquon's. Now, he's not turning the ball over, which was the thing.
And he's running effectively.
And 2 years ago, it was very similar to this. 2 years ago, he had good efficiency numbers, not high volume numbers. They won. Last year, it seemed like he was trying to justify the contract. This year, he hasn't been, and they have Saquon. He's playing great. I am super fascinated about what Brew and Coach are talking about. Is the squeaky wheel going to get grease? Because I don't think they need to adjust anything to beat Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's good, but without George Pickens in Philadelphia, I think they just keep doing what they're doing.
Okay. There's a few things I want to talk about here. They're not taking the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands, okay? The game out of his hands. That's not the situation. Just because he's throwing less. They're making Hurts make a lot of decisions. He's the one that is picking and choosing, am I going to run? Am I going to hand the ball off to Saquon? Am I going to hold it and throw it? Like, they are giving him a lot of decisions. It is up to him to manage that game. And again, game manager is not a bad thing. Whoever made the term game manager bad, someone needs to tell me where that came from, because I honestly don't know. Like, where did that become, like, essentially, like, the biggest insult you could throw at a quarterback? You know, like, because it's just absurd. So they are putting a lot on Jalen's plate, and it's a lot more than just find the right person to throw to. Like, that actually is more complicated than that, because it's constantly trying to look and feel what the defense is doing. Am I going to run? Am I going to give it to Saquon? Am I going to throw? And then also, if I'm going to throw, where am I throwing? So make no mistake about it, this is a lot more complicated than meets the eye. It's not like they're like, oh, well, they just don't want Jalen Hurts to throw that ball because he can't throw that ball, so they just hand the ball off to Saquon. Like, that's not what happens here, okay? And again, Jalen Hurts in huge key moments of all these games has consistently stepped up, whether it was a great throw to AJ or Devontae or Dallas or his own legs. Like, he's picked up many huge, gotta have it. The game is on the line. This is going to change how this game completely unfolds, third downs or fourth downs for that matter, and Jalen has picked it up. Okay, so let's stop pretending like they're taking the game and the ball out of his hands, because it's just not true. Are they relying on his arm as the foundation in terms of how to win? No, they're not, and that's okay. That's totally okay. So we got to be accurate when we kind of have these types of conversations. I've already talked so much about some of these things, honestly. This whole episode right now was like, who you got, the Bills or the Lions? And I'm like, we did that like 7 times this past week. And then the same thing, who you got, Pittsburgh or Philly? And it's like, we did that 7 times this week already. And it's kind of crazy. I guess these are just the 2 biggest games, but also with all the drama of Philly, it's like there's been more clips about Philly this week than I think there has been throughout the entire season, honestly. Like, there was a lot of clips when Saquon Barkley dropped that ball, and there was the whole conversations about Sirianni, and maybe with the blowout, because then that's when people thought maybe Sirianni was going to be fired. Then you had like a lot of these clips happening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But this week, I feel like has been the most since that time. I mean, it's just been like constantly like, you know, Eagles. And so on that side, like, kudos to AJ and Brandon Graham for like making the Eagles this whole thing right now. Plenty of Eagles content to go around, but we're also just kind of having the same conversation in circular fashion. Like, they literally just did this yesterday. All right. I mean, when they said must win, at the bottom, when it was like must win for Philly, like coming up or something, I was like, they actually literally did the must win segment with the Eagles like yesterday. Like, I you know, like, where are we right now? But yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Eagles at home should be favored. They're healthier right now, especially. You know, losing Pickens is definitely a legitimate loss for that Steelers offense. That can't be denied, but I do think the Steelers are a really good team, so I'm curious to see kind of how they manage that and how they deal with that, and how Philly looks, especially offensively, versus the Steelers defense. That's actually probably where my eyes are going to be locked in more so than anything else, quite frankly. And to see if the Eagles defense kind of has a little bit more of like I don't want to say a bounce back game, because it's not like they played bad against the Panthers, but there was not as hard as hit tackles as you're used to watching Philly. There was a few missed tackles to begin with. It just didn't feel like they were as locked in as they had been in games past, but they obviously still did a good enough job and held the Panthers to, 16 points or whatever the final score was, but obviously not a ton of points. So still overall good job, but still not what you had been used to seeing from Philly. So I'm just curious to see if there's a bounce back in that way, in terms of the mentality, the intensity, the overall approach, and kind of how they deal with Russ as well. And so, yeah, I think this game honestly should be a lot of fun. I kind of threw this out to, I think, Steelers fans before when I was making kind of a more Steelers-oriented video. But I'm curious, like, how do Philly fans feel about Pittsburgh? Like, do you guys feel that there's actually, like, any type of rivalry between the two of them? Like, to my knowledge, it's really not. Again, I know it's both Pennsylvania and stuff like that, and they even combined teams. I think it was either during, like, the war or during the strike when they became the Steagles or something. Definitely before my time. But I'm just curious because to my knowledge, I just don't really think Pittsburgh, different conferences, different ends of the map of Pennsylvania. Like, I just don't know if there's ever really that much of, like, the Eagles hate the Steelers and the Steelers hate the Eagles. Like, I've never really got that sense whenever talking about these teams. I don't think they play enough. They haven't had like big meaningful games. They don't have some Super Bowl, history with one another where it's like, like where it's real big. So I know Mangini was kind of trying to make it like that, where it's like the Steelers haven't won in Philly in 60 years or however many years. And it's just like, I mean, I had no idea that was even a thing. So I'm curious to see like what the level of intensity will be. Of course, obviously the Steelers want to win, and of course the Eagles want to win, and so that the fans are going to be intense for that game. And it's a Sunday at 4:00, so the sun will be going down. It's going to be getting cold. It's going to be like a grittier, more playoff mentality atmosphere. A more playoff atmosphere in terms of, at the very least, like the fans and the intensity. So I think this game has potential to be a pretty fun game to watch. But obviously, the Eagles are favored by a decent chunk considering how good the Steelers are, and I think that it keeps going up and up and up. So I think all eyes are obviously going to be on AJ Brown, and I will absolutely guarantee you during the broadcast they are going to be like, they're going to show us AJ Brown, and they're going to literally say, well, all eyes are on AJ, and the discussion of the week was Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and we'll see what these guys do. And depending on who's commentating, whether it's Greg Olsen or it probably will be, I assume maybe it will be Greg Olsen, but because I don't think it's going to be Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's doing the Lions Bucks game, but I could be wrong. And they're going to have like those conversations about it, so that's going to be fun to watch this game and have to constantly look at it through that lens. And I think like Mailata said it best, where he was like, this is not the Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown show, right? This is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think it was Mailata. And I love that soundbite. It's like, we're moving on, like get over it. We're the Eagles, not the Hurts Brown Eagles, and let's do this. But unfortunately, we're all, whether you're a Steelers fan or an Eagles fan, we're all going to have to be exposed to that constant conversation throughout this broadcast. And, if AJ Brown does get a big catch from Jalen Hurts, they're going to be like, well, that's going to feel good in the locker room later. And, that'll go a long way to squash the rumors swirling. And it's just going to be like, yeah, we get it. So I'm looking forward to just having that move beyond that, because it's like, yeah, it's fun to make this content and talk about the Eagles and whatnot, but like, I've reached my limit. Honestly, I filled my cup. Like I can only go back and forth with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts and all of that so much. So hopefully, there's no more controversy. But if there is, bring it on. Let's do it. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who you got in this game for the 7th time? Who do you think is going to win this game? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.